2024 has come and is about to be gone, and there has been so many great games in 2024, and here are some of my 5 favorite games of 2024. Some of these games came out on PC in 2023, so don't bite my head off if you're like, oh, this came out in 2023. I primarily play on the PS5, so yeah, don't bite my head off because of that. So at number 5 is Dave the Diver. Dave the Diver isn't anything super special or revolutionizing, but kind of going back to basics. It's a side-scroller game where you fish for fish, and you have a sushi shop, and you build your catalog of weapons and harpooning devices, and you dive deeper the more that you get the ability to craft things. It's not super like innovative. The game's music is really good. There is no dialogue in terms of like people talking. There is dialogue that you have to read, and they kind of do the whole 80s like kind of thing, and it's kind of charming of how good and fun this game is. So much so that I've sunk like 100 hours in this game, and I still haven't gotten all the way to the end of it. And there is DLC that's exclusive to the PS5. That's the Godzilla DLC, which is really fun, and I recommend it to anybody who wants to just play something basic, something fun, and something who really doesn't waste your time in just getting into the fun. If you think that a game can get fun by fishing and making fish sushi out of that fish, you're wrong, because Dave the Diver proves to you that game can do that. And by the way, there is a sequel of this game coming out very soon. It's not a sequel, it's a DLC. It's coming out very soon, so like if you like the game, you'll like the DLC that's coming along with it. Like I said, there's a Godzilla DLC, and there also is a DLC coming out in the near future that's kind of like a expansion of the game. And number 4, Vampire Survivor. This game is made by a guy who used to work in kind of the gambling sector of gaming, so he kind of knows what he was doing to make an addicting game. But instead of kind of making an addictive game that rips people off, he made an addicting game that's kind of cheap, and the add-ons are really cheap as well, and it's really fun. Vampire Survivor is another game that's eaten hours and hours and hours of my life, so much so that I've beaten the majority of this game. I've almost been every single level in the standalone game that's come out, and that's not including the many expansions that this game has. It's super fun, it's super simple, it's a top-down shooter to where you kind of either hack and slash, shoot, throw crates at people, and you unlock power-ups by opening crates from vampires that you killed randomly, and those crates kind of act like slot machines that you end up getting power-ups, and if you're lucky, you get like 4 or 5 of them at a time. And this game is just super fun. I think a lot of people think that a game has to be super graphically powerful in order for you to like a game. It's not necessarily true. Games can be all sorts of fun and awesome, and this is one of those games that came out that year. It came out in 2023, but the full expansion on the PS5 came out this year, so I only got to play it this year, and I had been waiting for the longest time to play it this year. And finally the game came out, and it was really fun. It really lived up to a lot of the hype of what people are saying that it is. It's a super fun game. If you haven't played it, I highly recommend Vampire Survivor. It's super fun. You don't need a powerful machine or a powerful PC in order to play this game. It's a really kind of basic game, but it's super fun and super addictive. Now, normally I'm not a fan of roguelike shooters, but Risk of Rain is one of these games that kind of comes into the rare points of where this is a roguelike shooter. And at number 3, Risk of Rain is probably one of the funnest games I've ever played, and again, I've beaten the majority of it and unlocked some of the majority of the characters that are in the game. Risk of Rain just comes as a great surprise of being just a fun game. If you want a fun AAA experience, Risk of Rain is one of these games that you have to get your hands on. It may not look like a AAA game, but I guarantee you it's built like a AAA game. Now, it is a roguelike shooter, and at first it feels like a game that you cannot wrap your head around, but the more you play, the better you get at this game. And you will probably lose more than you win at this game, but even when you lose, there's something about this game that you have to pick it up and do another run in the game. And once you beat it, it kind of makes you want to beat it with the next character and the next character and the next character. There's a certain charm to this game that a lot of other games have not really been able to do. Again, this game came out in 2019 and it released on the PS5 in 2024. It was one of the many great games that came out that year on the PS5, and it's just a super fun game. Like, it has so much charm, it looks so charming, it plays great, it's really fun, the enemies are really fun to play with, and most of all, it doesn't make you stick to an extremely hard difficulty that everybody has to kind of abide from. You can play at whatever difficulty you want. If you want to play with the way the game was intended, well, you can play on Monsoon, and not to mention, by the way, the longer that you take on each level in this game, it gets harder. So regardless of what level you play, the game gets hard. So yeah, like it's just a really fun game. If you want to try out Risk of Rain, it's on the PS5, it's on PC, I think it's on the Switch as well, I'm not sure. It's a really fun game that you should try out. You don't really need a extremely strong PC to play it. You can play it on the PS5, and if I'm not mistaken, you can play it on the PS4. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, it's a fun game. You should check it out. At number 2 is Neva. Neva is one of these games that I kind of saw on the PlayStation showcase and was like, that's the game that I want to play, and that's the game that I want on my PlayStation. And day one that it came out, I bought it, and I was not disappointed. Neva is developed by the same people who made the Visionary Grids, and it's a great game. If you haven't played that game, you should go play that game. But Neva is just in a league of its own. It's probably one of the most beautiful games that I played this year, and that's because it's a side-scrolling game. It's not necessarily the most groundbreaking like visuals, but it's just the art style is great, the way the story is, everything about the game is so good. The game is basically you and a young wolf that has recently had his mother's deceased, and you're taking a journey, and that journey leads you to where you're gonna get to. I'm not gonna spoil any of the game, but the game is just really great fun. It reminds me of games like Flower and Journey, that's really short. You can beat the game in one sitting if you have to, and if you want to, you can be in 2 sittings. But make no mistake, but because of the fact that it's short, it's kind of a weapon in itself that it uses in order to captivate the audience of what you're trying to convey, and also leave them wanting for more. And I imagine that it made the development not as long as it would be if this game were like a 40 to 50 hour game. So I wouldn't be surprised if these guys are already trying to crank out another game. I'm telling you right now, if you have not played this game, go pick it up. It is one of the best experiences that I've had in 2024. It's one of the games that I've like just sat there and beat it. I streamed it, and it was just a really fun, beautiful game. I hope that you guys can pick up that game. Out of all the games that are on here, this is one of the games that I think that you should pick up. Before we get into number 1, just make sure that you understand number 1 is my favorite game. It is not my game of the year. My game of the year will come towards the end of the video, and so yeah, stick around if you want to know which game of the year I gave game of the year to. So let me know what you think of my list, and let's get into number 1. And number 1 has to be Astrobot. Astrobot is a game that I've platinum, and is my first platinum ever. It's not really an easy platinum to give, but it is probably one of the most fun, difficult platinums that I've gotten. Astrobot kind of prioritizes you having such a good time in the game, and not really on visuals. Even though this game is visually stunning, it has a lot of great like ray tracing moments, a lot of beautiful moments, but that's not what makes this game great. What makes this game great is that A, it's fun, and 2, it is an homage to every PlayStation game that has made PlayStation what it is today. Even some games that aren't exclusive to PlayStation and aren't really known as PlayStation games are on here because of the fact that they were in the ecosystem while PlayStation was coming up. And Astrobot, and I really want to call him Astro Boy because of my friend, but Astrobot is one of those games that just like, it's just fun, you know what I mean? If you like Super Mario Sunshine, if you like Super Mario Galaxy, this game is, in my opinion, 10 times better than that game, and it's just so much fun. It just prioritizes the cuteness, the fun, the interactivity with the creatures, or not the creatures, the robots that you unlock is just so much fun. I love Astrobot so much, and for reals, it's probably my favorite game. It's not my game of the year, but it's one of my favorite games that is not game of the year, and it's super fun. If you have not played Astrobot, I would highly suggest it over any of the other games on here if you want to have a good time, if you want to have just laugh and have a good time with the game. It's really good. Let me know what you think in the comment section, what you think of this list. And now let's get into our game of the year. By far one of the games that I've at least put in 250 hours into, and I have probably played more than any other game that I played this year, is Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is one of those games that came out with the first iteration of Helldivers, and it was kind of a PlayStation Plus game that probably like 50,000 people played in total in its highest peak. It was a really fun game, but it was a little too difficult. It was just a little too difficult for my taste, so I kind of dropped off. But when I saw that they were making a Helldivers 2, I automatically knew that this development team would learn from all the mistakes that they made and make this game better and fun. And of course, they did exactly that. The weapons in this game is really good. The interactivity, the community, the bugs, they feel so crunchy when you kill them. The bots give you PTSD, Madeline Creek for life. And also, like, it's just a well-polished, fun game. It did have its glitches. It did have a lot of moments that the dev made mistakes, but they corrected that and just made the game all the way better to the way it was when it first came out. Keep in mind, this development team is relatively small. It's not a huge team. It technically is still an indie developer team that is funded by PlayStation, and it's a really fun game. They did so well with this game. The shooting mechanics are fun. If I had to compare it to a game in terms of what kind of shooting mechanics are in this game, it would probably be Metal Gear Solid 5 or Metal Gear Solid V. It is, and if you played Metal Gear Solid V, it's probably one of the best shooters that came out that year. Essentially take that out and put it on a game to where you play with multiplayer game, and you play with other people and you shoot bugs, bots, and squids. They recently released a whole other expansion for absolutely free where there's squids and you can like fight them. You could fight them in the first game and they were like ridiculously hard, and they were probably one of the most hated factions that you had to fight against, and now they're probably one of the most fun. That is how well this development team has done to fix its mistakes. Not only fix its mistakes, but learning from them and learning from the community. They've also made some mistakes with the current game, and it kind of went from a game that people really wanted as game of the year. They made such a big mistake in the middle of this game that they had to like kind of redo everything and kind of make this game to the way it used to be. And because of that, they came back stronger and made a game that, in my opinion, is worth the time for you to pick up now. And now at the end of the year that it is gone past the Game Awards, in my opinion, it is my game of the year, and it should be for a lot of people if you're just playing it. And if you've been along the ride, it's such a great game. I would recommend it for you. Out of all these games, on top of my favorite games, Helldivers 2, if you want to have a good time with friends or with just the community of Helldivers. There is some toxic people in Helldivers, don't get me wrong, that's in every video game. But for the most part, if you go to Reddit, if you go to the Facebook pages, there will be people there to help you out. And yes, there are expansions in this game that you have to pay for, like war bonds where you get different weapons. But for the most part, Arrowhead Games has made it to where you can farm this game and you can meet up with people and with an hour or two rack up 500 super credits, and then in the next game rack up 500 more super credits and have 1,000 and get a war bond, and you don't have to spend a dime on this game. But if you want to speed that up, you can buy super credits and buy those war bonds, which in my opinion is completely fair. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section about my game of the year. What do you think about my favorite games of 2024? What games are you looking forward to in 2025? Let me know what you think, and remember, you're pretty good.